Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
There is a return of a very troublesome dispute between two countries. Usually, you would think are most unlikely to have a dispute between them. Why do we say so? One of them is actually China. So why do we say so? Because China is a country which is quite likely to have disputes with many countries, or many countries are likely to have disputes with China, but the other country is Canada. That's not a country which particularly has disputes or conflicts of interest with many countries in the world, least of all with big powers. In fact, for a long time, Canada and China have had good relationship. Canada also have a large number of Chinese immigrants there who are quite well integrated in Canadian society, economy, etc., etc. Now, what has happened there is something that we've talked about twice in the past in our episodes of Cut the Clutter, especially 511. And 511, we are now far away from that, 810. So that is almost a year ago. But there we had talked about the dispute which had arisen after the Canadians had detained on an American warrant Meng Wanzhou, who was the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, and the heir apparent at Huawei, the big Chinese telecom electronics giant. She's the daughter of the owner of Huawei, who's Ren Zhengfei. Ren Zhengfei is also a leading member of the Communist Party and also somebody treated very, very, very seriously in China, taken very, very seriously in China. His daughter, heir apparent of Huawei, detained in Canada by Mounted Canadian Police, and she wasn't even coming to Canada. She was changing planes on her way from Hong Kong to Mexico, but she was arrested because there was a warrant from the Americans, and I will explain to you in a minute what that warrant was about. The Americans wanted her extradited. On December 1, the Canadians detained her, and in the course of time, extradition proceedings started. Those proceedings are now coming to a conclusion. Now, what has happened just now, so I'll mention the incidents and then we'll connect the wires everywhere. And then you will see how that circuit is formed. Now, just this week, just yesterday, a Chinese court in a place called Dandong. Now, Dandong is in Liaoning province. If you look at the map of China, this is far to the north, sort of northeast, and very close to the border with North Korea. In fact, it's almost adjoining North Korea. Now, Dandong, a court has sentenced a Canadian who has been detained for 2.5 years on charges of spying against China or undermining China's national security and national interest, stealing national secrets of China. That Canadian is Michael Spavor. Now, Michael Spavor, he was tried in March along with yet another Canadian called Michael Kovrig. So, two Michaels, Spavor and Kovrig. They were tried in March in a one-day trial each, one on March 21, one on March 22. So, a trial in China, I will not say there is na appeal, na vakil, na dalil, that there is no appeal or there is no lawyer or there is no argument. There is a vakil, you are entitled to a local lawyer, all right, so vakil is there. Appeal, you can now appeal in a higher court. But dalil, the argument in a court, what kind of an argument and what kind of case, a discussion, etc. can you have when everything is over in a day? That's why in China, no surprises, the conviction rate is, guess how much? It's 99%. So if you get away without a conviction in China, you have to be either very, 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 very lucky, or you have to be one of those people who are just allowed to go away, one of those cases. So it looks like the process is fair. It's like Zia-ul Haq holding a referendum for or against him and getting some 99 or 98% of the vote. Just leave 1 or 2% so that it looks like it was on all fixed. So 99% conviction rate, one-day trial. So trial was held in March for both of them. Then the sentence was to be announced later. So just as this case in Canada, in Vancouver, reached its conclusion, the extradition case against Meng Wanzhou, because the Americans want her extradited to New York to be tried by a court there. And I will explain the charges to you against her because that's a little bit complicated. Around the same time, the court in Dandong announced this sentence on Michael Spavor, and this sentence is 11 years in jail. 2.5 years is already spent in a high security Chinese prison, no connection with his family, etc. etc. Now, the other one, Michael Kovrig, both have been accused or charged with acting in concert. So Michael Kovrig, it was said, was collecting all this information in China and giving it to powers hostile to China, and Michael Spavor was his source. He was providing him the material. So now, if the source has been given 11 years and the quote unquote, the main guy has already been tried, you can imagine what's in store for him. Now, why are the Chinese doing it? What is the message that they are holding out? So, check out the dates. 1st December 2018, Royal Canadian Mounted Police arrests Meng Wanzhou, actually detains her because she was not sent to a jail, not to a lockup. She was allowed, in fact, she was released on a bail of 10 million Canadian dollars, which is about around 8 million American dollars. And she's been living almost like a free citizen in one of the poshest areas of Vancouver, in a 7-bedroom villa, where, if I read the New York Times, it says she's been enjoying private massages, painting classes. She's perfectly free to go anywhere, meet anybody, except that she carries a GPS device, the anklet, on her foot. So the authorities know where she is. So to that extent, she's under detention, but she's not detained in a prison. Her liberty is not gone. She's living a pretty good life. And in fact, if I read the Canadian press, there's a lot of stories about her turning up in sort of fashionable dresses, high fashion dresses, high heels, etc., in courtrooms, and displaying her wealth. And she has to be very wealthy. You know, the heir apparent at Huawei, no less, one of the biggest corporations in telecom space, in communication space in the entire world. So, within a week or within 8 days of her detention, the first of these two Michaels was arrested by the Chinese. And within the second week, the other Michael was also arrested. These two were doing quite a lot of work in North Korea, and Dandong was a kind of base for Spavor. That's why he's been tried in Dandong. Michael Kovrig, on the other hand, has been tried in a Beijing court. And the case was then made out that they were collecting high security sensitive information on China, working for hostile powers, undermining China's security and interests. And Kovrig was the main guy, and Spavor was doing the work for him. So both were locked up, both have been in jail since then. In fact, after that, when suggestions came out that maybe this was a pressure tactics, this was a message to Canada that you let Meng Wanzhou go, you know who she is, don't send her to America. And also Trump was making a lot of noises saying, I will do this, I will do that, I will shut down, etc., as Trump used to talk. So the message seemed to be that, look, we've got two of your guys. So let her come back. Don't send her to America. You don't need her anyway. She's not broken your laws. You have an extra mutual treaty with America to extradite, but don't push it because we've got two of your people. And the message, unwritten, unspoken, was that आप exchange कर लो. This was like an exchange of hostages. So at that point, the reaction from Justin Trudeau was very sharp. And I noted this in that episode 511. And he said, this is hostage taking. We don't allow hostage taking. What's happening in our country is a regular legal process, regular, fair legal process. The Chinese said, what's happening in our country is also a regular, fair legal process. So now, one of these two Michael Spavor, has been given 11 years. So court order is a little bit ambiguous, and you read through translations and stuff, so maybe we don't understand it. There is also deportation mentioned in the order. Now, we don't know whether deportation will be after he has finished his 11 years or earlier, but I think it's also been kept open so that if there is a deal tomorrow with the Canadians, then deportation will then become a way out, saying this guy carries a sentence on his head, is a convict, but we are deporting the person and then the Canadians will deal with him, and that might happen with the other also. And if the Canadians don't play ball, because this trial for extradition proceedings is now nearly over. What happens in Canada is, in the Canadian law, that the judge basically has to decide. This is the judge in Vancouver. The judge basically has to decide whether the demand for extradition by the Americans is justified or not. And that is not decided so much on the basis of whether there is merit in the charges against her or not. Although if there are no charges, that will become a strong point. Not on the merit of whether there are charges against her or not, but on whether there is jurisdiction, whether the American courts and American judicial system has jurisdiction over the crime or alleged crime she is said to have committed. So the defense that Meng Wanzhou's lawyers have is that, look, this is something, what is the charge? The charge is that a company called Skycom bought American computers and sold them to Iran. Now, Iran is sanctioned by America. So selling anything American, that too sensitive computer equipments from America to Iran is a crime under American law and under the law of many American allies also. And it's a serious offense. Now, Skycom does it. Americans make the computers. Skycom buys them, doesn't tell the Americans they are giving them to Iran and gives them to Iran. So how come Huawei's CFO is caught? That is because Huawei actually, that is the charge in the court in Canada, that is the charge in America, that Huawei owns Skycom. Now, once again, if Huawei owns Skycom, why do you catch hold of Huawei's CFO? So the story is, the way the charge is made out in America is that in 2013, in Hong Kong at a tea house, in a meeting with HSBC, Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation, as it used to be called, HSBC, which was asked to clear the dollar payment by Skycom for buying these computers, she made a presentation to HSBC giving the impression that this was being bought by Huawei and not letting them know about Skycom and definitely not telling them that Skycom was owned by Huawei. So you might say, "Arey, you sell this to me, Shekhar Gupta." But Shekhar Gupta might also have another company. So you are actually buying it in that company. So if you ask me that, Shekhar Gupta, you said this was being sold to you, but this has come to company XYZ. You said, but XYZ is owned by me. What is the big deal, right? It's the same company. Except if that XYZ broke the law in the country from which you were buying this stuff, then you misled the entity that was selling you this stuff. In this case, you've also misled HSBC for clearing this dollar payment. That is a charge against her, that she misled HSBC and others into believing that these computers were for her company. They came to Skycom and Skycom sold them to Iran, and she thought she will have this. These are allegations that she'll have plausible deniability. हमको नहीं पता Skycom कौन है, इसने किसने क्या बेचा है. But it now turns out that Skycom is owned by Huawei. That is the charge. In fact, it's taken me some talking and reading to understand this. In fact, I called Adil Brar, who's a China domain expert and who also writes a column for us, Eye on China, every week. Do check out his column. So I called him and checked with him because he tracks these proceedings very closely. Now, within 2 weeks, as we know, of her detention, these two fellows were arrested. Just as her case for extradition is coming to a conclusion, one of these fellows has got an 11-year sentence. Another Canadian who's sitting in China, who's also been in jail, he was caught, Schellenberg, he was caught on a drug charge. He was caught on a drug charge for selling or for trafficking meth, which is a common banned substance. So he was earlier given a sentence of 15 years. Now, within a month of Meng Wanzhou's detention, a retrial was held in his case. And within a month, in that one-day retrial, everything is one day, chat mangni, pat phansi, right? Sorry to use that dark humor वैसे तो कहते हैं चट मंगनी पट शादी, पर मैं कह रहा हूँ चट मंगनी पट फांसी, राइट? तो in one day he was retried, his retrial was held, and his 15-year sentence was then enhanced to a death sentence. That death sentence had gone for a review now to a higher court. Just this Tuesday, that is yesterday, the higher court confirmed his death sentence also. So Canadians now have three people in trouble. So one who's been convicted, given 11 years, another who's been convicted but sentence is yet to be announced, one who was convicted, earlier given 15 years, his sentence was enhanced to death penalty a month after Meng Wanzhou's arrest or detention, and now, just as her case is coming to a conclusion, the Canadian Extradition Court, the higher court has confirmed his death sentence. Now, of course, this can again be appealed in the Supreme Court of the People of China. So the Chinese have that bargaining chip there as well. You can now see what is going on. I'll give you some quotes from key people saying that this is part of a geopolitical game. This is not just crime and crime. Now, once the court in Canada decides whether or not these extradition proceedings go on are justified or not, the court doesn't decide to justify. The court doesn't decide to extradite. Court just says, is there any merit to the demand that extradition proceedings should be stayed or cancelled? If the court says no, there is no such case made out, then this file goes to the Canadian Minister of Justice, and Minister of Justice then takes a call. But if you see Canada's record, particularly extraditions with America, I read something in The Diplomat, which is a very well-informed blog. The Diplomat, there is a piece, and I'll share it with you, that tells you of the 198 cases in about 6 to 7 years of extradition between US and Canada, only 16 have seen an injunction or a stay on extradition proceedings. Finally, only 9 have saved themselves from being extradited, and in those cases, the issue is not so much merit of the case or merit of the charges. Issue is either there was no charge at all, which doesn't seem to be the case in this in Meng Wanzhou's case right now, or that there were such health conditions that it was considered unsafe for the person to be extradited to the US. So the odds on surviving extradition are very tough once this court takes a call, and that is the reason the Chinese are showing this level of urgency. Now, who are these two Michaels? As I read up about them, they are also colorful characters, and I say that carefully because they are people facing really tough laws and charges. And I don't say colorful in a judgmental way. Colorful doesn't mean they are spies or anything. But look at them. Now, Michael Spavor, he is a fluent Korean speaker. He is one of the rare foreigners with insights and access inside North Korea. He first visited North Korea in 2001. He visited North Korea 2001, also met the American defector there, the famous James Joseph Dresnok, and made some headlines because of that. After that, he studied in South Korea, he taught in South Korea, he also did music in South Korea. He also appeared in performed in a song of K-pop, a popular song of K-pop, Korean pop, which is very popular in India as well. And he is one of the rare foreigners, Westerners, who has known Kim Jong-un very well. In fact, he became famous. But we didn't know this. I have discovered now that Kim Jong-un is also a follower of American basketball. So he even took an American basketball player, that is Dennis Rodman, to North Korea for Kim Jong-un to meet him. He also became friends with Kim Jong-un's Japanese sushi chef, who's Kenji Fujimoto. So as a colorful character, and he did a lot of business between North Korea and China and Canada. So there are very few Western entrepreneurs who can do anything in North Korea. He was one of them. And the other Michael Kovrig, how is he colorful too? Because just like Michael Spavor, he also did pretty serious music. He was a member of a popular Hungarian band called Bankrupt, and cut quite a popular disc for them. Michael Kovrig was a diplomat For 4 years between 2012 and 16, he was a diplomat, Canadian diplomat posted in China, Hong Kong, etc. Again, a region specialist. After that, he joined an organization called International Crisis Group. Now, what is International Crisis Group? That is like a non-profit NGO which studies conflict zones and works for enhancement of peace. So he was looking at North Korea, etc., or he was looking at these areas for International Crisis Group, and looks like Spavor was working for him or helping him. And that's the story they've now made, the Chinese have made. They said, you are a former diplomat, all right. What were you doing there on an ordinary passport with a business visa since 2017? You were collecting our secrets, and Spavor was your source who was doing the stuff for you. So that is the story. These are the charges on this side. Charges against Meng Wanzhou, I told you. Now, what happens if Meng Wanzhou gets extradited to America? Trump is not there, although one of the arguments our lawyers are taking in the Canadian court is that, look, Trump's statements tell you that Americans don't have good intentions. They don't have fair intentions, so you can't send her to injustice like that. But the fact is that the charges against her, which is bank fraud, wire fraud, in America, those things are taken very seriously. Those charges can get her up to 30 years of jail. And also, if the trial begins in America, it will be a very high publicity, very high tension trial. So there is Meng Wanzhou, and the Americans now have, and the Canadians now have a choice. So they have the two Michaels, Spavor and Kovrig, and also Robert Schellenberg, who's been convicted for trafficking in meth, whose sentence has now been enhanced to death. Now, Biden has promised to help Canada. We don't know how Biden will help. Diplomats of 25 friendly countries of Canada collected at the Canadian embassy in China to show solidarity. But what can they do? Because the Chinese are playing. So Dominic Barton, the Canadian ambassador, who was present at the court when this Spavor sentence took place, he said, I don't think it is a coincidence that these things are happening right now while events are going on in Vancouver. That is the extradition case. This is part of the geopolitical process of what is happening. He also said that while Schellenberg has an appeal at Supreme Court, but this sentence is very unfair. And in fact, even Justin Trudeau has said that this sentencing, this kind of legal system, they have not got an iota of justice. This will not pass any international test of jurisprudence or international test of legality. This is completely illegal, etc. But in Canada, it's also becoming a political issue because there are rumors. In fact, there are strong reports that Justin Trudeau may have a snap poll. So the Canadian opposition leader, conservative leader, Erin O'Toole has spoken out, and he said death penalty is abhorrent. Political and death penalty for political reasons is inexcusable. And Chinese Communist Party needs to know the world is watching. So this is becoming now a strong political issue in Canada as well. Now, before I conclude, I will also tell you how the Chinese have responded to it. So after Meng Wanzhou's detention, and then the arrest of these two Canadians, because it is, itna coincidence does not happen in life that within 2 weeks of her detention, you pick up these two random Canadian guys who've been there for a long time and say you are spies and we will try you under our toughest laws and put you in high security prisons away from everything. Now, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman, Hua Chunying, who sometimes also speaks out in the India-China, Ladakh kind of context, she said that what has happened with Meng Wanzhou is nothing short of a political incident in which Canada played a very disgraceful role as an accomplice. And then Hu Shijin, who's also a familiar name in India because he is the editor-in-chief of the almighty Global Post, the Chinese Communist Party-run English newspaper, Hu Shijin made a statement also soon after Meng Wanzhou's detention where he said, if Meng were extradited to America, China's revenge will be worse than merely detaining a Canadian. So you can see that this is now power play in action. And this is now a full-fledged geopolitical crisis.